Welcome to the Stay Teacher podcast, where current teachers, student teachers, and future teachers share their roots, ROOTS, which stands for their reasons, the R, the obstacles, the first O, and how they overcame the second O, those obstacles. And then the T is their transformation, and why, despite everything, they stay, the S. Hello, I'm your host, Germay Alazar, mostly known as Coach G, and you're listening to episode number 3 of the Stay Teacher podcast. My guest today is entering the education field full of passion with the goal of making a difference in kids' lives. But he also represents a demographics that is critically needed, yet deeply underrepresented in our schools. He is a young, energetic, and a brilliant African-American male educator. Please welcome Isaac Sanders. Isaac, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Isaac, well, let's get started. So start with just quickly introducing yourself and tell us, where you are with the stage of your career, education career, and so on. Let's start with that.
Yes, my name is Isaac Ronald Sanders. I'm a upcoming senior at the University of Pittsburgh, studying education. And yeah, I'm from Detroit, Michigan.
Nice. Detroit, Michigan. Is that where you are right now?
Yes, currently I am.
All right. I've never been to Detroit, Michigan, but that is on my list to go there. All right, Isaac. So we are going to get started with our reasons. I am particularly interested why you joined this field. Like I said, you are unique. You are an African-American male teacher entering this field. That right there makes it unique. And we'll talk about what I mean by that. Tell us the reasons, the why behind it. Maybe take me back when you were young. Maybe there was something that pushed you to join this field. Tell me the main reason, the why.
Well, one of my main reasons as to why I wanted to become an educator is because of my mom. My mom has been an educator for 25 years plus at this point. So I really don't know the exact amount, but I know it's above 25. And ever since I can remember, I remember going to her classroom before the school year, helping her out, putting up posters, moving chairs, moving tables, just doing any and everything to create an environment for the kids. And so I feel like ever since the very beginning, I always was a part of just how to build a classroom, helping out where I was needed. Even I was helping out other teachers. They were using me and my brother to lift different things and move different things around the classroom. So that's originally why I wanted to become a teacher. But at that time, I didn't want to become a teacher until my December before my freshman year, when I did a program called Freedom Schools Literacy Academy, where our main focus was helping students, first to third grade Black and brown students, learn how to read and comprehend better, and really like enforcing this and really like doing this through joy and cheers and chants and a lot of different just energy and just, going at it, every day for students. So I was an intern there. I was a junior servant leader, is what they call it. And now this summer, I'm doing the same program virtually. I'm a servant leader apprentice, which is the college students who are above the classroom. So this program is truly what made me want to become a teacher, and doing it this summer was full circle moment. So I'm just happy to be back again.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a great story. Obviously, your mom had a huge influence on you on wanting to become a teacher. Tell me, go a little bit deeper with that, because I'm interested in understanding, when did you tell yourself or your parents or maybe somebody else that, hey, this is the path. I am going to be a teacher. Do you remember that time or that experience you had where you said, this is it?
Yes. It was that summer before my freshman year, and it was when I was finally realizing, like, okay, I could really see myself in this field. I'm having a lot of fun with this program. Like, I'm having a lot of fun with these kids, which is like, okay, I knew it, but I still wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So, but after this program, it's like, okay, I told my mom, I told, anytime people ask me, I'm like, okay, I want to go into education. So when I went to Pitt, I was fully like, okay, yep, education is the way I want to go. And, nothing was staring my head at this point.
Yeah, great. So here's what I'm curious about. This is, I'm sure a lot of our audience want to know. You, a young African-American male teacher in our school settings nowadays, is very rare. And I remember when I was a school administrator, even when I was in central office administrator, we've always talked about how do we recruit African American educators, specifically male African American educators. And we always had a strategy on how to do that. And sometimes we ask ourselves and our colleagues, why don't we have a lot of African American educators? And we don't really have an answer for it. Why? And so we didn't know. And we all know in our education system right now, African American teachers are highly, highly needed in many schools, but we don't have them, right? So my question to you is, and I'm sure this is a long answer, but maybe you can just help me understand this. I still struggle with it. Why? Why aren't African American teachers like you, young educators, not entering the field?
I definitely think there's a reason why a lot of young Black males don't want to go into education. I think one of the main reasons is because the school system has always pushed a young Black male outside of the school instead
Mhm.
of in the school.
Yes.
For example, when a young Black male is in trouble, most of my stories and experiences of what I've been hearing, seeing, even experienced personally is, you know, the first cause is suspending a student.
Yep.
Why is that the first thing to do? Like, why are
Mhm.
students so policed? But that's also how it is in the real world as a black man too.
Mhm.
So we just have to be careful
Yeah.
and about what we do and who we're around. But why would, as a Black male, why would we want to go back into the school to the same system that
Mm.
caused us all this trouble?
Yes.
So I think teachers must think about this when they see a young Black male walk into the classroom,
Yes.
especially if them themselves aren't a young Black male and they can't really put themselves into their shoes.
Yes.
But I remember there's a study that was always like mind blowing to me. It's like, okay, teachers' eyes were tracked, and ever since they were tracked, they will be following the Black students more.
Yeah.
And that's how the world works. That's
Yes.
just, that's what the United States is.
Mhm.
It's been built like this since the very beginning.
Yeah.
So, but as a Black male, you're not coming back to a space where you were policed like that, especially in
Yeah.
school,
Yeah.
especially where you were having all these. I'm not gonna say all experiences were bad because I had some really great experiences, but
Yes.
when it comes to authority members,
Yes.
principals, teachers, I can guarantee you every person probably have a Black story, but every Black male has a
Yeah.
specific story that just hits their heart.
Yeah.
So I just think that's just something that administrators have to think about when it comes to wanting to recruit Black educators,
Mhm.
and just realizing that black educators and Black males specifically bring a special like energy to the space,
Mhm.
just because it's not a lot of us. It's not a lot of Black males in general. I think it's less than 3%.
Yes.
And when it's less than 3%, you bring a special like energy to the classroom, who you are.
Yes.
Students respond a little bit differently.
Mhm.
And it's just, what's the word? It's it's impactful for the
Yes.
students to have a black male teacher.
Yeah.
Some students can never go without having a Black male teacher, and
Yeah.
some never a Black teacher in general.
Yeah.
But there's reasons for all of this, especially for Black teachers.
Yeah.
And just one other point would also just be our Black teacher pipeline. Like, this is something that the program that I talked about, Freedom Schools Literacy Academy,
Mhm.
is trying to uphold. Um, After Brown versus Board, I believe 5,000 plus Black teachers were fired after that. So
Mhm.
I think that also is the main cause as to why the percentage of Black teachers in the Black teacher pipeline might be so low at this point, just
Yeah.
because we were kind of pushed out of the field after segregation inside the schools ended. And we had these different schools that all Black teachers taught at. And that was just a different space. But
Yeah.
now when integration came along, that's when Black teachers were pushed out. So
Yeah.
I think that's also another factor,
Yeah.
along with being pushed out.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Forced to be pushed out is the
yeah.
word. So yes.
Yes, what an insight. Thank you so much for sharing. I think what I'm hearing you say is that experience. Every time somebody has positive experience, whatever environment you're in, you want that positive experience again. So what I'm hearing you say is like male, specifically African American, have had negative experience in school setting. So why would they want to go back to that? So I think I hear you clearly. So for us as educators is we need to be mindful of that, right? You talked about suspensions. Is there an alternative way? So we need to talk about like if we want to recruit African American male teachers, let's say when they're in high school, we have to make sure that they have positive experiences, role models, so we can create this pipeline. You mentioned about pipeline, so they can come to our schools. They can go to school like you to study education. But if they don't have that positive experience, they're just not going to join. So thank you for sharing that. So we'll go to the next one, which is obstacle. And I don't know if you had any obstacle. Maybe, I don't know if you have a story about when you told somebody, a family member, neighbor, or so on, that you're going to become a teacher. Were there any obstacles that you faced with people? Or if not, give me any obstacles that you face when you're joining this field, or maybe currently if you're facing any obstacles.
Yeah, I feel like it's always a so the response that I usually get when I say I want to be a teacher, it's either a really good one where like, okay, people are really excited, or like, oh
Yeah.
wow, like I can't believe that you want to be a teacher. Wow, that's crazy. Like them kids,
Yeah.
that's a decent response, right? But then it's other side is like, oh wow, that's really what you want to do. Those kids, they're a mess. They could be a lot. And are you sure you're ready to do that? Are you, they're like questioning the fact of like what you want to do, whether it's because of
Yeah.
money, whether it's because of students, them having a notion of who students are before you
Yeah.
even get into the classroom, or whether they just don't have the drive to help young people or to, go or to be a teacher, and
Yes.
they see somebody want to do something different.
Yes.
So I think it could be a lot of confusion when you tell some people, okay, you want to be a teacher, especially as a Black male.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know some colleagues that also some Black women who say like, okay, they want to be a teacher, and now their families, they just think they're going to be poor.
Mhm.
You're not going to have a lot of money if you're going to be a teacher. And some of it is true. Back
Yeah.
we were going to say, maybe 10, 15 years ago, before like, okay, teachers really really weren't making that much. So I understand, but
Yeah.
it is a different time.
Yes.
Teachers, they're starting to appreciate teachers a lot more, and it shows in salary. So
Yes.
I think people aren't really educated on that fact, and that's why they respond the way they do. And I feel like anytime I tell somebody I'm going to be a teacher, that's the main thing that they say.
Yeah.
And all the time you don't want to hear that when
Yeah.
you're, especially if you're already in the field and you're
Yeah.
already dealing with everything else. You got a lesson plan. You
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
you gotta make sure this student is okay. You got to make sure that student's okay. Then
Yeah.
you got to make sure the whole class, you
Mhm.
bring the whole class together and teach them and learn from them, while also like it's just a lot.
Yeah.
So I feel like people just need to be more mindful about what they say especially when they're talking to younger educators.
Yeah.
Try to give, even if they were never a educator,
Yeah.
everybody in the world was students.
Yeah.
So you can offer some positive towards what I'm saying in some
Yeah.
way, shape, or form, but it's just understand that like people now isn't always going to think like that. So
So
that's my main obstacle going
yeah.
into this
So
field.
so the obstacles, and then this is we're talking about our roots. The first O, and then we can blend the next O is the overcome or overcame. You talked about obstacles. I think you are right. We hear about all those stories. I call them noise. But how do you overcome that? Because especially like when you hear it from a family member or good friend, that really why, that actually just breaks you, right? I mean, you might not show it, but it puts a doubt, right? It's like, well, you're going to be poor. I mean, think about like somebody tells you, oh, you're not going to make enough money. You're going to be poor. So those
Right.
are big time
Right.
obstacles, and there's going to be some doubt. So my question to you is, how do you overcome those? Do you have a strategy, or do you have certain things you do or people go to kind of anchor you and so you can move forward?
Yes, definitely. I put myself around young educators who wants to be in the field. I talk to my mother. I'm blessed enough to have that factor in my life where I can go to her where I'm struggling with something, whether it is I'm doing a teaching program, okay, I'm in school and I don't understand something. Okay, like I'm blessed enough to be able to go back to her and to really understand. And then I also just have conversations with other future educators about this, like
Mhm.
to just relate. And when I do find out another future educator, especially a black one, I tell them like, oh yeah, like keep doing your thing.
Yeah.
You want to do this, so you know what, you gonna go do it, and you
Yeah.
know what, we gonna go do it together. So because once again, they need more of us, so we're
Yes.
gonna have a job, and so it's basically on us to want to teach and want to learn from students and want to really share our perspective of what it is and in how it is to be in school because we did that.
Yeah.
So now we have to guide this next generation of students to go do that. So
Yeah.
I think I give a lot of uplift when I see other teachers, and
Yes.
then I kind of just ignore the noise
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah.
So that's kind of just a mixture of everything that I do
Yeah.
when it comes to
You
overcome.
mentioned about your mom. I'm curious to hear about your mom has been in education for 25 years. By the way, kudos to her. Say thank you so much when you see her. That's we need educators that are committed to this field. So your mom has been in education for 25 years. You mentioned. Tell me if you remember when you hit an obstacle, or maybe it was during your coursework at University of Pittsburgh. Maybe it's just when you were working with students that maybe you questioned something, you hit a wall. I want to know if there was a story you shared with her and she just completely just gave you something for you to be like, okay, I'm in the right. So do you have a story like that quickly to tell me or to tell us?
Mm. I remember I was telling my mom I was doing like an early student teacher program at Faison Elementary, and I'm with first graders, so
Yes.
I'm it's a little bit younger, and that's all my experience that I had. My
Yes.
mom's telling me, when you do a lesson, you're gonna have to really plan step by step. The students can tell when you don't really have a plan,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and they feel that. So next time you do the lesson, try to prepare a little bit more. Then she really told me, basically walk me through the steps of why I should be preparing and how I can and how I'm going to have to prepare for my student teaching, which is going to be a lot. I'm forced to lesson plan step by step. So
Yes.
that's when I knew like, okay, I do have the support going into this field
Yes.
and, I can do it.
Yeah. And hearing that from your mom, I'm sure was very powerful, right? She's done it before. And because I'm saying that to you because I'm sure like if somebody else tells you that, that's not in the field, maybe they're in the field, you would probably just ignore it, right? But coming from your mom, you're like, oh yeah, I better listen to her because, you mentioned about a lesson plan. We all know as educators, yes, we need a lesson plan. But when she said to you, kids know when you don't have a plan, that's pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's go to the next one. We talked about obstacles and how we overcame them. And I think to highlight the overcoming challenges, I think we all need support system. You talked about friends. You talked about similar people in the field. You talked about your mom. So I think we all need a support system. We can't do it ourselves. So I appreciate you highlighting that. So let's talk about the transformation, the T, because at the end of the day, we're all growing, we're all learning. Talk to me about who you becoming with this process. Look back what you used to do, who you were maybe a year or two or longer ago. And then through this process at the college level, with your mom's feedback or advice, and with colleagues' feedback or observing, who are you becoming with this experience? What's this transformation look like for you?
I think I'm becoming somebody who really understands other people's emotions and how it affects everything else. So,
Mhm.
or I understand the world as as a places where, okay, if a student's mental, physical isn't right, they're not gonna be able to learn this day. So I think it's just more of my empathy and sympathy like side coming out a little bit more through whether it's through teaching or through some of my outside experiences of wanting to be a teacher.
Yes.
And also just connecting that with some of my personal experiences growing up. Like I grew up with a IEP. I struggled with stuttering, my S sounds. I was a student to get, pulled out of class. I was getting extra services on
Mhm.
different tests, assignments, just a number of different things. I played both sides of the school system. I was a student that kind of struggled,
Mhm.
as a student that had a 2.3 in the 8th grade
Mhm.
on my last car marking, even though, I already knew what high school I was going to, but that's a whole different story, right?
Mhm.
To the student that, you know, a 3.8 in high school, and having that throughout my whole high school experience. So I think I come to a classroom or any space with a just a transformative view on how, whether it's how I view students, how I view people. I think I just come a little bit with care first, with
Yes.
understanding first, rather than, you know, with any preconceived notion of who somebody could be.
Yeah.
Because who are we to ever judge anybody else? We're just as imperfect. So
Yes.
I think I'm transforming in the way of just understanding my past experiences and then understanding how I can use that to further my career and then
Yes.
further my mind. Like at the end of the day, not just my career, but just about my mind and who I am as a person.
Mhm. Yeah. You talked about transformation. You talked about the struggles you had in middle school, and then with the support, you obviously improve your GPA and things like that. Do you feel like moving forward, let's picture 5 years from now, maybe 6, 7 years or longer, do you see yourself in a specific classroom or working with specific types of students, or what do you see yourself? I know things can change, but I'm curious that your experience is gonna lead you that way. What do you see yourself doing
Um,
in 5 years?
In 5 years, honestly, I hope to be a third or fourth grade teacher, if I'm being completely honest.
Mhm.
Now, I'm open to letting my field change in the way I'm meant to be. Like, I have no problem with furthering my education, furthering, my schooling to get to, okay, a principal one day, or,
Yeah.
assistant principal, like be in a leadership position,
Yeah.
or being a special ed teacher when you try it out to really be, because I would have that degree.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, in years, I would want to be a fourth, third grade teacher on the higher side of early education primary,
Mhm.
and but still staying open to other opportunities
Yeah.
within the school.
So with that, paint me a picture here. You have this classroom, third grade, fourth grade, or fifth grade. If I walked into your classroom, what did that look like? Tell me what's around your classroom. Tell me what you're saying to students and then what students are doing. I know that sometimes it's hard for some people to do, but paint me a picture. I walk into your classroom. What does that look like? What are you doing? What are students doing?
Um, I think in my classroom, I plan for it to be really decorated, and I plan for it to be, so like some of my personal experiences. So like adding in Black heroes, black people who invented certain things around the classroom, bean bags, areas for, carpet, areas for students to take off their shoes if they want to, and, you know, set up different places, adding in a system where students can help around the classroom, giving them different assignments to help the classroom, and not just,
Mhm.
it's not just my classroom, it's our
Yes.
classroom. And also just giving students space to be themselves. I think school don't really allow a lot of people to just come as they are, and we judge them for how they come, if they come as they are. But people have to realize that like every form of behavior, or every behavior, is a form of communication. So
Correct. Yes.
I think in my classroom, I don't know if somebody could walk in and they think it might be a little wild sometimes, just
Yeah.
because, I want to see who students are. No, I want
Hmm.
to see who students come to the classroom as, and, show who they are. So whether or not that's me not really having a set assigned seats for students, like
Yes.
coming in and just seeing who they group around, who they want to be around, and who they want to, like letting them interact how they want to interact,
Yes.
or just, figuring something else out for the kids. Like I want to
Yeah.
see them in their full selves, rather than, yelling or, controlling the
Hmm.
environment every second of the day.
Yeah. Yep. You want that sense of belonging, right? That's when kids feel like they belong. Their mind's going to be open to learning. Yeah, I can walk in, I can see that. Okay, so let's shift to our last framework. We're talking about roots, and we just did transformation, the S, which is stay. And this is a good one. I mentioned you were unique as an African American teacher. So talk to me like maybe I'm a principal, assistant principal, or you can even think of it like I'm in the central office. And my goal is not just recruit you as an African American male educator with a lot of passion, a heart to serve kids. How do I keep you? I want to keep you as long as possible. If I can, I want you to work in my school district until you retire, or maybe until you decided to go do somewhere else. What do I need to do to keep you, Isaac, as an African American male teacher, so you can connect with our students, and also not just our students, but with the whole community? What do I need to do?
Yeah, I have a couple suggestions to this. I think number one would be giving Black educators space to be themselves and
Mm,
giving them the space to kind of, okay, we have this curriculum, but how can I add in the culture of our students
mhm,
inside this curriculum, especially if it's a predominantly Black school? Like how you have to give these teachers the space, especially Black teachers, the space to, okay, I know my student isn't ready for this just yet, but they do a really good job at this.
mhm,
So just giving them just the mindset to, or the free spirit to, okay, I see this,
mhm.
allow me to do this. And I feel
Yes.
like, and that's just a part of policing. I feel like Black and brown people don't really do a good job when it comes to an authority figure constantly policing them and constantly going after what they're doing,
Mhm,
because that's, once again, that's how school usually is,
mhm.
and or that's how the world usually is. So I would say giving the space, but also letting the teacher know that, like, okay, yep, you do have to do the curriculum. As long as you do this, do that, I'm okay with you adding in, because you know your students more than I do,
Yes.
and the curriculum don't know your students. So
Mhm.
as long as you do this part of the curriculum, you know what, you can add in what you need to add in because you know your students. I
Yes.
think that's one big way to really keep teachers. It's just about that atmosphere of the school.
Yeah.
Another way would be other colleagues and teachers making sure that this is the best fit for the school. If you're going to bring in a teacher, ensuring that their background and who they are and their personality is really going to fit what you want your school to be, because you want to keep good teachers. You want to keep teachers who want to do it. So even just having one teacher in your school that don't want to do it is a factor that is a, disadvantage,
Yes.
because now that's a whole possibly 30 students that this teacher is talking to every day.
Mhm,
So, and then that's also another, however many teachers you have in the school, that this teacher could be, other teachers realize, like, okay, yeah, this teacher isn't really in this, like,
mhm.
the way I am. And that could cause problems. That can cause discourse, like whatever it is, it could cause
Yes.
it. And, you see it, right?
Mm,
And then I would also celebrate teachers in general, but ensuring that, like, making sure that you celebrate your Black teachers, especially when you see something that they did good. Okay, wow, your students were at the bottom of the barrel at the
mhm.
beginning of the school year. Now they're at the end. Okay, they deserve a pizza party. Let me do this for you as a principal.
Yes.
Ensuring that, making sure that they know that you see them as a principal and not just as somebody. Okay, because I see a lot of times, and my mom gets done like this too. Is she's a strong teacher. She's, her voice directs, and she's very straightforward with what she wants, and she calls for results. So
Mhm,
they moved her from early education, fourth grade, in the middle of the year, to middle school social studies, just because of how strong of a teacher she is. Now, that's not really good for the environment of the school, but my mom took it with the punches,
mhm,
and those kids, those 6th to 8th grade kids, they went up in social studies at the end of the
mhm.
day.
Yeah.
But my mom was used pretty
Yeah.
much. So
Yeah.
making sure you're not using your Black teachers, because you know that they call for a certain amount of respect, or they're able to demand a certain amount of, okay, what they want out of their students,
Yes.
or they're able to really get their students to learn, and to really respond to them in a way that they might not do it with other teachers. So I think it's a matter of a lot of different things, like of what I just said, and
Yes.
it goes so deep. So, but that's just the main part of what I wanted to say.
Yeah. You hit it right in the head. I'm listening from a principal perspective or a superintendent, even a school board member. I'm like, okay. You talked about like celebrations, honoring and trusting what they bring to the table. I think those are really powerful things. A lot of time we take them for granted. I can say that I trust you, but how do I show that I trust you, right? You talk about celebrations. When kids are showing progress, what does that celebration look like? Do you have a system of celebrating teachers? And then you mentioned about a great teacher doing great work in a certain area. And he said, oh my goodness, we're struggling in this area. We're going to take her or him to this area like they did to your mom, which is fine.
Right.
We do what's best for students, but make sure you celebrate and you honor that teacher. You elevate that teacher is what you're saying. If you don't do that, then, not just, African-American educators, but everyone gets burned out. So thank you for sharing that.
Definitely.
So last thing I wanted to ask you is if you were a young African-American educator, male or female, and let's say you are junior or senior in high school, even earlier, and you're thinking about going to the education field, but you're hesitating because all the stories out there or the noise out there, what would you tell them about the education field? How can you recruit them to this field? What would you say?
I would say bringing in joy as a main factor to what a student is doing. If the student wants to be a teacher, depending on who they're talking to, it could be another teacher. So this teacher has a responsibility to showcase as much joy as possible inside the school. Just because when students have a better experience inside the school in general, it makes them want to come back.
Yes.
And especially if you have a future teacher, now is your job to make your classroom fun, to keep students engaged, because you could have somebody who could possibly be in your shoes, and you don't want to be a reason as to why, I had this one teacher in school and they just weren't that much. They did this, did that to students. And you don't want to be that, because it could cause students not to want to be a teacher, or not really see the importance of being a teacher. So I would say just showcase as much joy as possible. And especially for Black educators, I would say as much Black joy as you can, you need to show it, because we don't really see a lot of this in the media. Majority of our Black media showcases people crying, people dying. Obviously, this isn't the main, like all the time, but that is the mainstream media. They don't show, the stories that, a teacher getting growth, or, those aren't the stories that are getting showcased all the time. So I think the main thing would just be just to showcase that school, wanting to be at school is fun. Being in your school is a fun thing to do. It's not just a chore.
Yeah.
So I think however a teacher achieves that is how they achieve it, but it's a need. And it's especially for Black students to see, I can have fun at school.
Yeah, I agree with you. So assume that I am a senior in high school right now, and I'm trying to decide if I want to major in education or if I want to do something else. What would you tell me? How can you convince me to major in education?
It's a lot of pluses. You get to really shape and build your own classroom environment. So you really get to showcase who you are in your field every day.
Yeah.
You get to bring in ideas that you might like. You get to, decorate your classroom how you might like, depending on certain districts. Now, you do have to be mindful of that. But you really get to be who you are and be yourself and showcase who you are, whether that's with pictures, whether that's with how you teach, with who you are. So, and then you get summers off. That's not a bad thing, no matter what. A lot of jobs don't have summers off. That's a blessing. And teachers deserve summers off out of every field. Everybody needs a teacher in their life. You had to go through a teacher to get anywhere in your life. So your main impact, your main person inside of a person or a student's life.
Yeah.
So you get to really impact and not control, but you have sort of a control of who this person could be, who the
Yeah.
student could be.
Yeah.
And if you're not really wanting to be that on a positive side, then you shouldn't be in the field.
Yeah. I mentioned this in my first episode. Rhea mentioned about teaching is the only profession that makes other profession possible. He pretty much is saying that. Imagine yourself, if you're in high school right now, or not, or whatever you are in your stage, what field you can go in is, like you said, you can be yourself and you can make a huge difference, and you can create the future, because you can create somebody else's future. You can create a path for other profession, and that's teaching right there. So thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else that from our roots framework that I did not ask you that you want to share quickly here with us, Isaac?
Something I would tell future educators to really dig deep into is, I would say, the history of this country in general,
Mhm.
just because you get to really, you have empathy, because
Mhm.
as a teacher, you have every and any kind of student, no matter who walks in that classroom. That's what you're
Yes.
going to have. And if you dig into the history of how this country has, well, we're going to say the negative history of how this country has really disenfranchised, destroyed communities, and really put people of color down, specifically Black people, that's when you will really understand a perspective of another student. And you know what? That's not a, I'm not going to say it's a real need for you to understand another perspective, but it
Yeah.
opens your heart up. It opens your mind up to
Yeah.
really understand, like, okay, the students, whether their family got this, got that, okay, cool. That's fine. I'm coming into this classroom
Yeah.
as a lover and a space to offer this student a, a safe space, a kind space, and somewhere where they want to be.
Yes.
So, yeah. And then also just looking into the history of schools in general, and how most of the time in schools, people of color are pushed out.
Mhm.
And if honestly, if every teacher really understands, really have empathy towards that fact,
Yeah.
I guarantee that it would enhance their teaching abilities. It would
Yeah.
enhance the way that they
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
into teaching, look into learning in general. And then
Yes.
also, one final thing I would say is always be a learner.
Yes.
Never think you can never learn anything from your students. You're always learning from your students. You always have
Yes.
to be a learner, whether it's from your students, whether it's from your colleague, coworker. Just, you have to know that you must learn to continue. So
Yeah.
that's my little spiel of what I have to
Yes.
say.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I think as educators in the teaching field, is beautiful for us to learn and grow. We never stop.
Right.
And that's why I love being in this field, is I'm always learning. I'm learning from you. I just learn a lot from you. And we have to have that mindset, learn and grow with our students. And when our students see that, and that also inspires them to continue to learn and grow, right? So thank you so much. That was beautiful. And last thing I want to say is to our audience, if you enjoy this podcast, please share it with another teacher, another community member. And if you have a person that you want to connect us with, they have a story to share, please visit us at www.stayteacher.com, and we'll contact us through there, and then we will reach out to you, and hopefully we can have you on our podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, Isaac.
Yes. Thank you. I really appreciate
Thanks.
this. Always somewhere just to share my voice, share my thoughts.
Thank you so much.